I would say that over the course of probably the last 4 or 5 years, there's been a real significant hockey stick in the maturity of the cloud. And I really think a lot of that comes from the very largest players in the space maturing their cloud-based products. So I'm talking about Microsoft with Office 365. I'm talking about Google with G Suite. They had to make their applications and their underlying infrastructure a lot more mature to be able to deploy that in a safe, secure fashion, and be able to support your finance and your healthcare clients, and be able to enter into HIPAA agreements and business associate agreements and things like that. So I think we saw that maturity start at the top and then trickle its way down. Amazon has really, in my opinion, always been kind of the leader with trying to roll out new, more mature products that can be self-service, in a lot of ways. And no different there. They've been on that same maturation process, even though they don't. Obviously, their core product that they're delivering is, of course, the storefront for the parent company. But they've also hosted things like, you may not even know, like Netflix was hosted on Amazon Web Services. So there's a direct competitor that they're hosting the services because they had the better solution for it in the cloud. So I do think that it's very mature. We've seen a lot more players enter the marketplace. So your traditional regional data centers where you could rent rack space and have a modified or a hybrid kind of on-prem, off-prem scenario, they've entered into the cloud space because that's where the infrastructure design is going. And the one key thing that I would add is that as you look at the hardware providers, if you're still looking at on-prem, they are producing things that are really supporting cloud, at least integration, if not mirroring cloud design. And so your traditional on-prem infrastructure is going to go up in price because it's going to be less available. People aren't going to stock an inventory it like they did before, and it's all going to be custom ordered equipment. And so I think that the cost shift is there, and it will eventually become a cost play. Even though, to your point now, I've not seen a cloud migration that demonstrated significant cost savings. It shifts costs from capital to operational, but not really. It kind of nets out at zero.
Yeah, it definitely, there's not a true cost savings per se, but it definitely does make the way we think about cloud different. Instead of having to put a lot of capital budget out there, we can actually put this in more operational budgets, consume it as we need it.
And the second thing that I wanted to point out there is that our application provider. So I pointed out Office 365 and G Suite, but there's also the EMR practice management vendors in the healthcare space. They're all offering some as a service. So even if you don't have a direct cloud strategy, if you're signing up for these services, you are operating part of your business in a cloud environment. And in many ways, especially when you get into practice management and EMR, if you're operating in your vendor's cloud environment, that can be pretty restrictive. And so there is opportunity now to be one of those, I'm not going to say early adopters, but the earlier that you can adopt it, the better that you are positioned to not get painted into a corner by one of your vendors because they move into a particular cloud strategy or a cloud technology that doesn't allow for integration, kind of locks you into their ecosystem, much like what we see with the big players. It's not like you can have, exchange email, but I want, Google Docs for my, no one signs up for both. You kind of get into one ecosystem or the other. And we're seeing more and more of that with, some of the primary technology vendors. And in healthcare, there's so much innovation going on and so many new products coming down the line that can really, limit your ability to grow your business or sustain your business. And the example I would use is that we moved into a practice management EMR solution in the cloud, and then found that we needed a scheduling module to run on top of it because the core scheduling module wasn't sufficient, and we couldn't do it because we were in the vendor's cloud and they wouldn't allow that level of integration. And so one of my first big private practice cloud migrations was based on that interoperability presented by the vendor. So that's the other component to it when you're, kind of considering what is the cloud, is it's not just your core data components, but it's also the applications that your vendors are trying to sell you as a subscription model.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think one of the things that's interesting about the whole migration that's happening today is that for a while, most vendors were taking their on-premise application, putting it on some servers in the internet, someplace in the inner space kind of place, and they presented it in some kind of virtual kind of manner. But it was the same application just running and just delivered in that fashion. I think the point you're getting to, Jim, is that most of the providers of applications now are writing cloud native applications. They're building them in the cloud. And I think, David, we talked about in one of our planning sessions, this kind of born in the cloud kind of mindset. And I think what you're going to see is that this born in the cloud strategy is going to allow for faster deployment of technology. It's going to create an increased, if it's really adopted correctly, the interoperability, so I can do a plug and play with different parts of the solution as we needed. Am I getting that correct, Dave, from our conversations before? Or am I missing something there?
Yeah, I think you're kind of talking about the same thing. So what happened in the course of, I would say, in the last 5 years, the maturity and the call for action that, hey, the previous world where, like you said, the application that were on-prem, the EMR provider just said, hey, we're going to put this in the cloud. Now, a normal healthcare organization, that's one of many applications still is on-prem that still needs to be consolidated. What I see now is a lot of the EMRs kind of are cloud first focused with a lot deeper integration through API that allows you to interact with other cloud applications, that would kind of plug into the, scheduling and all that, right? And Power BI, collect data warehouse, and, do all kinds of very important things to run a business. It's all happening, right? So the API is, a normal conversation now that you can actually have with an EMR vendor. Before it was on HL7, the custom integration takes 6 months. So there's a shift in helping supporting this cloud first strategy across the board. Yeah.
So if I'm in the healthcare industry and I'm looking at upgrading my applications, whichever one it happens to be, it sounds like what I should be doing is having a healthy, what is the providers, the vendors cloud strategy, right? And where do they see it going? Where are they today? Where do they see it going over the next 3 to 5 years? Is that kind of a good first step, Dave, do you think, when you're looking at having those conversations?
Yeah. I mean, having this strategy or the vision that, hey, cloud's here to stay. It's going to help us make more efficient. It's going to help us see the business better. Just considering it's more like a GPS, that you're driving this car as a medical practice, and this upgraded GPS is going to help you get there with live data and navigation, all those very important things through the journey of that, reaching to another, to your destination. Yes, absolutely. One of the things that should keep in mind to start thinking towards is, what is that big 5-year goal or strategy looks like, and then tying that up with a 1-year objective or something that kind of builds a roadmap for success.
No, I think that's a great point, though, right? So, the cloud can be confusing, and part of the reason why we want to talk about seeing through the clouds is the fact there's a lot of moving parts. It's an evolving, maturing space. Everybody has a different take on it. And I think right now, today, we're not in this world where it's a pure play cloud environment, right? There's a combination of on-prem equipment that we have private cloud, public cloud, we have all kinds of things. And a solution is kind of a mix of those. So it's a little bit cloudy. So for us, it's really about kind of looking forward and trying to build a roadmap to understand where we are and where we want to go. And as the pieces evolve, we adjust that roadmap to add the clarity that we need to be able to create the right solution.